When in doubt, go to the library. That's what Ron Weasley says in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. So I did. To the world's largest library, in fact, the Library of Congress, with a collection of 168 million items, all kinds of treasures from our nation's past and the labor movement's past. Many of the folks who work there are AFSCME members, including David Fernández-Barrial, who's agreed to give me a tour of some of the library's most amazing artifacts. Come along with us for a behind-the-scenes look and prepare to be inspired. Okay, well, show me some of these amazing artifacts, David.
Absolutely. So here we have some treasures from the Manuscript Division of the Library of Congress. Over on the far right, you have notes from 1787 that Alexander Hamilton drafted in preparation for the Constitutional Convention. And they basically outline his vision of government, federal government for the United States.
So this is Alexander Hamilton's handwriting that we have here. Right. That is amazing.
Yeah.
So tell us about this piece here.
Yeah. So this is a letter from 1941 from Thurgood Marshall, who was working for the NAACP, discussing some of the circumstances of a case in Texas that involved voter rights that would lead into a case that became Smith v. Allwright, which actually was argued before the Supreme Court in 1943, and Thurgood Marshall was the person arguing it in front of the Supreme Court. In many ways, he considered this to be the seminal case that he was involved in that started the movement towards civil rights in this country.
So this was right around the time that Thurgood Marshall really began the legal defense fund of the NAACP and led it and argued many of these cases before the Supreme Court successfully for many years before he joined the court. So
that's exactly
we got an example of his mental process and thinking through this case. It's really incredible.
Are you ready for the next item?
I am.
All right. So here we have some seminal treasures from the library's collections from the National Child Labor Committee, which was founded to investigate the conditions of children across the country who were engaging in labor and being forced to work from an early age.
So these were pictures with a purpose to really try to make change.
Absolutely.
And to end child labor.
So this is a photograph of Addie Card, taken in Vermont by Lewis Hine, and it's basically showing the conditions in the textile industries in Vermont. And this image is iconic for a number of reasons, but even if you just look at the young girl, sort of, it's every child. You've got an image of someone who is being forced to do work
and should not be working.
In 1959, then Senator John Kennedy published this book, A Nation of Immigrants, which talked about the contribution of all these different national and ethnic groups to our American society. And included as part of the original publication was this map of the United States, which breaks down each region by the dominant ethnic or national group that settled there.
And it reminds us that we are a nation of immigrants.
Absolutely.
And Kennedy, when he was a senator, really understood and helped educate us about that reality. And it's a great visual representation.
And one last little piece that we want to show you is this item from 1937. It's the Journal of the State and Local Government Employees, which is the first publication of the AFSCME
National Union
minutes.
And you can see, well, it's the record of proceedings, but it's also the publication of the union, I think. And you can see our original logo here. So this is from the very early history of our union, and it lives here in the Rare Books collection at the Library of Congress. I'm so grateful that you've taken the time to show us all of this, and also that it's AFSCME members who curate and care for all of these artifacts and treasures that you've shown me today.
That's right. We represent over 1,400 bargaining unit employees here at the Library of Congress. In fact, we have some of our leadership of the AFSCME locals right next door. Would you like to meet them?
I would love to.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Yeah.
All right. This is AFSCME at the Library of Congress. All right. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do every day to make this library happen. And thank you for what you do for working folks who work at the Library of Congress.